Hello, my dear apprentices of mathematics. Here we are. This is your coach, Mr. Magno, and we are working on something called Module 4, Lesson 8, Change fraction of a set into repeated addition or convert repeated addition into a fraction. All right, let's start with the easiest one here, and let's select it, right? Let's start from the bottom up. Okay, so here we are. Let's enlarge this one so we can see it better. So we have clearly 3/5 of a meter. Now, one of the things that we need to remember is that 1 meter equals, okay, let me write meter. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, okay? So as you can see, because this is a fraction, that should be smaller than 100 centimeters. Now, how do we do this? Well, this is 3/5 of a meter. And how much is a meter? 100. Okay. Now remember again that we're multiplying fractions, so with the whole number, and the whole number has a 1 as the denominator. So we're gonna rewrite this as 3 times 100 over the denominator, which is 5. Now, if we want to simplify this first, what we would like to do is, for example, divide the 5 by 1. And we're going to do the same thing to the numerator. So that will be 100 divided by 5. So I'm going to rewrite that expression. So it's going to be the 3 stays the same. And what it is, 100 divided by 5, the answer is 20. Okay, so that's going to be 20. Now, why do we do that? Because it's easier. You get smaller numbers. So 100 divided by 5 equals 20, because 20 divided times 5 equals 100. So that's how you know. And the division on the bottom is 5 divided by 5 equals 1. So now we have the solution. 3 times 2 equals 6. 6 times a 10, which is the 0 here, then that will be 60 over 1. Okay. So now, this is not, yes, that will be correct. So now, you know that 60 divided by 1 equals 60. So how many centimeters is 3/5? Now we can answer the question. 3/5 of a meter equals 60 centimeters. Okay, so that will be the first problem. Now let's look at our second problem. And remember, this is something we've done already. So let's zoom in. Okay, here's another one. Very simple. Again, you always have to remember the measurements. Well, you don't have to, but look, if you're going from minutes to seconds, you have to remember that 1 minute equals 60 seconds. Okay. Okay, now our problem is over here. So let's look at the problem. So now this is the number, this is already set up. Notice that 1 minute is 60 seconds. So we changed this to 60, and it's already set up for us over here. So now all we got to do is multiply across. What is 1 times 60? 1 times 60. And the denominator will be 3 times 1, which is a 1. There's a 1 below the 60. 3 times 1 equals 3. And that would be the easiest way to get that done. Okay, so we're not finished yet. But let me take you to now. I'm going to use a different color to show you something. So now there are two numbers on the top and bottom that can be divided by 3. By 3. One of them is the number 3. Okay, so I'm going to write it here. And the other number that can be divided by 3 is 60. So what you're going to do, you're going to separate those two, divide them, both of them, by 3, because they both can be divided by 3. And 60 divided by 3 equals 20. And if you're going to check, will be 20 times 3 equals 60. That makes sense. The multiplication adds up. And 3 divided by 3 equals 1. So now we know that 20 divided by 1 equals 20. So here's what happens. We're going to rewrite this multiplication. There is a 1, and the 60 is not going to be a 60 anymore. It's a 20 because we converted it over here, okay? And there is instead of being a 3 on the bottom, that was 3 divided by 3. The answer was 1. When you do the math, 1 times 20 equals 20 over 1. You know that any number divided by 1 is going to equal the same number. That's a law in mathematics. So now we know that 1/3 minute, which is 1/3 of 60, equals 20 seconds. Okay, my friends, that would be another example of how to do this kind of problems. Let's look at one that is a little more complex, I will say, but the process is the same. So here we have it. At the market, Miss Jim Wynn bought, let's see, what did he buy? Three-fourths pounds of grapes and 5/8 pounds of cherries. Now here's the question. How many ounces of grapes did Mr. Wayne buy? So to solve this one, we only need this information. Now, something that is good to remember is that 1 pound equals 16 ounces. And why is that important? Because we're going to substitute the pound by 16 ounces. All right, let's set up our problem. So it's going to be 3/4 of a pound. And the pound is, we're going to just write a pound. Okay. Now, we're going to rewrite that problem. How? The same way it is set up. Look, 3/4. And remember the word of means multiplication. And a pound equals 16 ounces. So we're going to do it times 16. So there you go. We just made this statement into a fraction of a set, which is the 3/4 times 16. So now let's do the math. So I'm going to bring it down here. So 3/4 times 16. So we're just going to rewrite it in this manner. We're going to multiply the numerator 3 times the numerator 16 divided by the denominator 4. Remember, the 16 has a 1, so when you multiply 4 times 1 equals 4. That's the answer on the bottom. Now, on this particular problem too, if you pay attention, there is something that we can do. In here, let me get a different color. The 4 can be divided by 4. So we're going to rewrite it here, okay? So 4. Now, the 3 cannot be divided by 4. So we have to choose the 16. So we're going to write the 16 on the numerator. And now they both can be divided by 4, okay? So when you say 16 divided by 4, the answer is 4. And when you say 4 divided by 4, the answer is 1. So now we're going to replace the numbers in the multiplication up here. So now we have a 3, and the 6 is no longer a 6. It became a 4. So it's going to be times 4. And the 4 is no longer a 4. It's now a 1. And we're going to write the 1. So now we can say 3 times 4 equals 12 over 1. Any number divided by 1 equals the same number. So now we can answer the question. So the answer is 12. Let me circle it. Okay, so the answer is 12. Let me rewrite it. 12. That doesn't look good. Let me just erase the whole thing. Okay. So the answer is 12 for this model, for this module 8, for lesson 8. So we know that the answer is 12. So now we're going to write it exactly where the problem is. It says, how many ounces of grape did Mr. Wayne buy? Okay, so here we go. We're going to write it down. We're going to use the text and write, Mr. Wayne bought 12 ounces of grapes. All right. So now we have the answer here, and we expressed it in word form. And I'm going to enlarge that a little more so you can see it better. Okay, my friends, make sure you watch this video again. If you have doubts, that's the best way to get the doubts out of the way, by watching the same process over and over. And this is lesson 8, module 4. Signing out, your coach, Mr. Magno. And stop.